What if I told you that one of the most beautifully written, highly praised, just deeply poetic pieces of advertising ever created? I mean, a literal masterpiece penned by an absolute industry legend was a complete and utter failure at actually selling anything.
I mean, it's wild, right? It really remains one of the greatest paradoxes in the history of persuasion. You have this gorgeous literary prose.
Like award-winning stuff, right?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Stuff that wins industry awards, gets framed on agency walls. It's literally taught in college classrooms as the pinnacle of copywriting. And yet when it actually meets the real world, it completely bombs.
It's just faceplants.
Totally faceplants. Zero sales.
And then, to make it even more confusing, you contrast that beautiful failure with the seemingly basic, almost blunt, painfully simple headline that successfully sold products for over 25 straight years.
25 years without ever being beaten.
Right. And not for lack of trying either. The best writers in the world tried to beat this simple little ad, and they simply couldn't do it.
They threw everything at it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because today, we are cracking the code on human psychology and persuasion. If you are listening to this right now, I want you to think about the last thing you bought online. Or, the last article you clicked on.
Yeah, think about what actually made you stop scrolling.
Exactly. We are looking at what actually makes you click, read, and buy versus what we, think makes us do those things.
And that gap between what we think works and what actually works is exactly what today's deep dive is all about. We're getting into a truly foundational source today. We are looking at Making Ads Pay, Timeless Tips for Successful Copywriting by John Caples.
Which, the title sounds distinctly vintage, let's be honest.
Oh, it's super vintage. But the insights are as sharp as a scalpel. John Caples wasn't just some guy sharing his creative opinions on what looked nice.
Right.
He was a vice president at BBDO, which is one of the most famous and influential ad agencies in history. But his real distinction, the reason we are talking about him today, is that he was a pioneer of strict, ruthless, data-driven marketing.
And we are talking long, long before the internet here.
Decades before, way before Google Analytics, before A/B testing software. He lived and breathed cold, hard data.
Okay, wait, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Because you're telling me a book written in the 1920s and 30s, before television was even widespread, let alone the internet or smartphones or these crazy programmatic algorithms we have today, that this book can tell us how to communicate today.
Yes. Absolutely.
But hasn't the human attention span fundamentally changed since then? We're scrolling TikToks now.
That is the exact assumption this book shatters, and it's honestly why this text is so crucial right now. The tools we use to reach people have changed drastically, sure. The mediums have evolved.
Right, the screens are different.
Exactly. But the human brain, the biological operating system that's actually running our decisions, it hasn't changed at all.
Got a bit.
The evolutionary psychology driving our desires, our fears of social ostracization, our inherent laziness, it is exactly the same today as it was a century ago.
Human nature is human nature.
Precisely. We live in a modern world that is completely obsessed with algorithmic delivery, optimizing the feed. But we are forgetting the absolute fundamentals of human nature. This book forces us back to the bedrock of why a human being decides to take an action.
So if we look at Caples' entire career, all the thousands of tests he ran, the decades of data he collected, what does this all actually mean? What is the spine of his philosophy?
He distills his entire worldview into one incredibly clear central thesis. It's brilliant, he says. A good advertisement is a believable promise to the right audience.
A believable promise to the right audience. Okay, that sounds simple, but I feel like there's a lot packed in there.
There is. Every single word in that sentence is a load-bearing pillar. First, it has to be a promise of a tangible reward.
Like you get something out of this.
Exactly. Second, it has to be entirely believable to the skeptical human mind.
Because we are naturally suspicious.
Very suspicious. And third, it has to act as a filter to select the exact right people from a massive crowd. If you fail at any one of those three criteria, the whole structure just collapses.
It's like a three-legged stool.
Perfect analogy. And Caples viewed this through an almost biological lens. To him, advertising was just Charles Darwin's theory of evolution applied directly to commerce.
Darwinian commerce. I love that phrase. How does that actually work in practice, though?
So you introduce variations into an environment, just like nature does. Longer legs, shorter legs, bigger brains, smaller brains.
Right, trying different traits to see what survives.
Exactly. Then you see what actually survives in the wild. You test relentlessly.
Hmm.
You completely discard the failures no matter how much you love the pros or how clever you thought it was.
You have to kill your darlings.
You absolutely kill your darlings. And then you replicate the winning combinations. He stripped away all the mysticism of advertising. He said it isn't art. It is simply selling, multiplied by the printing press.
Okay, so a believable promise to the right audience. It sounds elegant, but executing it seems incredibly difficult because humans are deeply complicated, messy creatures.
Extremely messy.
And to use that Darwinian metaphor, to evolve, you need to know what's surviving and what's dying, right? If you're a marketer today, you have a real-time dashboard showing you impression share, click-through rates, time on page.
All the metrics.
Right, all the metrics. But if we are operating on 1920s technology, how did Caples actually know what worked? How did he separate the winners from the losers without a computer dashboard?
This brings us to a really crucial concept in the book. He talks about the supreme value of mail order advertising. He viewed it as the ultimate, completely uncorrupted testing ground.
Why mail order specifically?
Well, think about typical brand awareness advertising. Say a massive billboard for a soft drink on the highway.
Sure.
You cannot actually measure the direct impact of that billboard. Did someone buy that soda because they saw the billboard? Or because it was at eye level in the grocery store? Or because they saw a friend drinking one?
You just kind of hope it's working.
Right. The data is inherently muddy. Mail order is entirely different. It is a 100% complete, closed-loop sales test.
Because the ad itself is the entire transaction. There's no middleman.
Precisely. Every mail order ad contains a built-in measuring device, the coupon at the bottom of the page.
Oh, right. The little dotted lines.
Exactly. For an ad to succeed, the reader has to physically stop what they are doing, cut out the coupon with scissors, fill out their personal information, put a stamp on an envelope, and mail it along with their hard-earned money.
That is so much friction.
An incredible amount of friction.
Okay.
So if the ad generates enough direct sales to pay for the cost of the magazine space, it stays. If it loses money, it gets dropped immediately.
It's ruthless.
Completely ruthless. There is absolutely no hiding behind vanity metrics like, oh, we're doing brand building or we're raising awareness.
Where you can't just say, well, people really like the vibe of the ad.
Exactly. It either sells or it starves. And this environment forces a level of brutal, undeniable honesty that most modern communicators, frankly, never have to face.
And that brutal honesty, from what I understand, revealed a massive flaw in how we usually try to test ideas. Caples spends a lot of time talking about opinion tests, right?
Yes, opinion tests,
Yes.
which is just a historical term for what we now call focus groups.
Right, right. And the data he found on focus groups is absolutely fascinating. I mean, it kind of ruins the whole concept of them.
It really does. The flaw of the opinion test provides this profound insight into human self-deception. Caples discovered that if you gather a group of people in a room, show them two different ads, and ask, hey, which of these do you like better?
Which one would make you buy?
Exactly. If you ask them that, they will almost always give you the wrong answer.
Why? Are they just lying on purpose?
Not maliciously. They aren't trying to ruin your test. They are doing it because humans naturally project an idealized version of themselves. They vote for the ad that makes them look smart or cultured or altruistic to the person holding the clipboard.
It's about social signaling.
Completely.
Yeah.
Let's look at the specific data on this because he gives an incredible example of a life insurance test that proves this perfectly.
Yeah, let's break that down because I love this example. So they tested two vastly different psychological appeals for this insurance.
Right. The first ad was focused on a son's college fund. It was very noble, very selfless, portraying this responsible parent looking out for their kid's future.
It's awesome.
Exactly. Now, the second ad was titled Retirement Income for Yourself.
So pure, unadulterated self-interest.
100% selfish. Now, when they ran opinion tests, when they put people in a room and asked them which ad they preferred, the vast majority of respondents overwhelmingly voted for the altruistic college fund ad.
I mean, of course they did. No one wants to sit in a room with a researcher and a bunch of strangers and admit, yeah, I care way more about my own beach vacation money than my kid's college education.
Exactly. They wanted to project the image of a caring, self-sacrificing parent. It's human nature. But Caples didn't trust the clipboard. He knew better.
He went back to the Darwinian testing ground.
He ran both ads in the real world in actual magazines where real money was on the line.
And what did the actual coupons say when the mail arrived?
The selfish retirement income ad completely destroyed the college fund ad in actual sales. It wasn't even close.
That is so telling.
The stated preference was altruism. The revealed preference, where the money actually went, was self-interest.
If you are listening to this right now, maybe on your commute, just think about how often you see this exact same behavior today. It is exactly like asking people if they prefer watching hard-hitting historical documentaries or trashy reality television.
Oh, that's a perfect modern equivalent.
Right. If you run a survey, everyone claims they spend their evenings watching thought-provoking documentaries about climate change or history. But then you look at the algorithmic viewing data, the undeniable truth of what screens are actually displaying.
And it's the reality show.
The reality show about wealthy people arguing on a yacht is the #1 most watched program globally every single time.
It is the gap between who we wish we were and who we actually are.
Yeah.
And Caples warns us, he practically begs us, never to blindly trust what people say they will do or what they say they will buy.
Because we lie to ourselves.
We absolutely do. If you build a campaign or a product or even an internal presentation based purely on what a focus group tells you they like, you are building a house on a foundation of human vanity.
Wow. A foundation of human vanity. That's a great way to put it.
The only truth is tested, actual behavior. You have to test in the wild, where the only metric that matters is the friction of parting with actual dollars or actual time.
Okay, so you have this rigorous Darwinian testing mechanism in place. Data comes back. What did Caples find was the single most important factor? If we are talking about what actually moves the needle, where did all this mail-order data point?
It pointed overwhelmingly to one single element. An element that, according to his split tests, could make a 400% difference in the sales of the exact same product.
A 400% difference just from changing one thing.
Yes, and that thing is the stopper, the headline.
The headline, just the title.
Because the logic is inescapable when you really think about it. You can have the greatest product in the world, you can have the most persuasive, deeply psychological body copy, you can have the best guarantee, the lowest price.
But none of it matters if they don't read it.
Exactly. If your headline doesn't arrest their attention immediately, none of it matters. Caples described it as essentially being a brilliant salesman standing on the sidewalk delivering a perfect, flawless pitch while watching the prospect drive away in a taxi with the windows rolled up.
You just completely missed them? They couldn't hear a word you said.
You missed them. So Caples learned a specific formula for headlines on his very first day at the agency. He learned this from his copy chief, a guy named Ev Grady. And the formula is simple: curiosity plus reward.
Curiosity plus reward. Let's unpack the mechanics of that. Why those two specific things?
Well, Caples operated on a very sober, kind of cynical assumption about human nature. He believed people are inherently lazy, and they are perpetually looking for quick fixes to their problems.
Let's be real, we are.
We absolutely are. We do not want to work hard. And on top of that, we are incredibly distracted. So your headline needs to do two things simultaneously.
Right.
It needs to pique their curiosity, creating what behavioral psychologists call an information gap in the brain.
Like an itch you have to scratch.
Exactly. While simultaneously offering them a deeply desirable reward that seems relatively easy to attain.
Okay, let's look at some of the legendary headlines he wrote using this exact formula because they are iconic. We have one that says, "How a faux pas made me popular," and another one, "How a strange accident saved me from baldness." Now I'm looking at these and I'm struggling to see the difference between that and modern internet clickbait.
Like it got a lot.
I mean, you won't believe this one weird trick to cure baldness. It sounds exactly like those spammy, low-quality ads at the bottom of a recipe blog, you know?
It is a vital comparison to make. It really is. Because the mechanical structure is indeed very similar. However, there is a massive psychological distinction that dictates whether the reader actually buys or whether they just bounce immediately.
What's the difference?
Modern clickbait relies almost entirely on an extreme curiosity gap. It promises a massive revelation, but when you click, it fails to deliver the reward.
Oh, right. You end up on a page with 50 ads and no actual answer.
You are met with a slideshow of unrelated images, or the article doesn't actually contain the promised information at all. It's an open loop that is never satisfyingly closed.
It's a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And you just feel manipulated.
You feel tricked, and the human brain hates feeling manipulated. It breeds instant distrust.
You immediately want to click away.
Exactly. A successful Caples ad, however, uses the curiosity to open the door, but the very first paragraph of the body copy actually delivers on the reward.
So he pays off the promise immediately.
Yes, the curiosity gets them reading, but the copy immediately satisfies that mental itch with a compelling, believable narrative that naturally and logically leads directly to the product. The headline is a promise, and the body copy is the immediate fulfillment of that promise.
That makes total sense. There's another layer to his headline formula that I found really fascinating in the book, and it has to do with how the brain processes language, because Caples found that vague, abstract claims almost always fail when tested against highly specific ones.
Yes, the absolute necessity of specificity. You cannot be vague. Let's look at a concrete test he ran for a business training institute to prove this.
Okay.
So they tested an ad with the headline, "Here is proof that institute training pays financially." It performed terrible.
Just totally bombed, because pays financially is just such a blurry concept. It's abstract.
Exactly. The human brain does not easily process abstractions. If I say to you, "Oh, this pays financially," your brain has to work to imagine what that actually means. Does it mean $20?
Or does it mean $1 million? Am I buying a boat?
Right. It requires cognitive effort to figure it out, and as we established, the reader is incredibly lazy. They won't do the work. So Caples went back and tested the exact same product with a new headline.
And what was it?
To a $5,000 man who would like to be making $10,000.
Wow. That is incredibly direct. I'm assuming it performed better.
It absolutely crushed the vague one, because the brain doesn't have to work to understand it at all.
It's just immediate math.
Think of it like giving someone directions. Abstract copy is like telling someone, yeah, just head west until you find it.
Good luck.
Right. But specific copy is saying, take exit 42, drive exactly 3 miles, and turn left at the red barn.
The brain only feels comfortable taking action when it has a clear, highly detailed map.
Exactly. $5,000 to $10,000 selects a specific audience, and it offers a mathematically precise reward. It's the difference between a fitness ad saying, get in shape, which means nothing, versus lose 5 inches off your waist in 14 days.
This specific claim just feels truer. It feels tangible, like you can hold it.
It proves that the person writing it actually knows what they're talking about.
For the listener out there right now, trying to write an email to their boss today or trying to pitch a client, the practical takeaway here is just massive.
Huge.
You should be spending the vast majority of your time, maybe 80% of your writing time, just on the hook, the subject line, or that opening sentence, because if that fails, your brilliant proposal will never even be read.
Nobody will see it.
And when you write it, pair a curiosity gap with a highly specific, tangible reward. Don't try to be clever. Don't try to be abstract or poetic. Give their brain a clear map.
That leads us right into the next major hurdle, because let's say you've done it. You've written a brilliant, highly specific headline.
Okay, the hook is set.
You have successfully stopped their scrolling. They're looking at your message. But what makes them actually read the second sentence? Why do we bounce from articles even after a great headline catches our eye?
Right. Getting them to stay is a real trick. And this is where Caples identifies what he considers the ultimate sin of writing. He calls it manufacturer's copy. Let's break down the fundamental difference between an ad that actually engages the reader and an ad that just strokes the ego of the company who paid for it.
Manufacturer's copy is the worst. It's what happens when a company, or even an individual, uses their platform to talk exclusively about themselves.
We see this all the time.
Constantly. They talk about how state-of-the-art their factories are. They talk about their rich history, how they've been in business since 1982, or how visionary their founder is. It is entirely focused on the I, or the we.
Our mission, our values.
Exactly. And Caples argues, with absolute mountains of mail-order data to back it up, that the reader simply does not care about you.
It sounds harsh, but it's true.
The reader only cares about themselves.
To bring in an analogy here, this is exactly like being trapped at a cocktail party with someone who literally lacks the ability to ask a single question.
Oh, the worst kind of person.
Right. They just stand there holding their drink saying, I did this, my company's doing so well, I just bought this new car.
And you are just desperately looking over their shoulder for an exit.
You're plotting your escape, you just want to get out of the conversation. But if that exact same person walks up to you and says, hey, I noticed you've been struggling with your golf swing, and I actually know a biomechanical trick that can fix your slice in 10 minutes.
You aren't going anywhere.
You are absolutely locked in. You're like, tell me everything.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the underlying psychology. And Caples has a brilliant case study that proves this dynamic in print. So his agency was selling a mail-order course designed to improve a person's English grammar.
Okay.
It was created by this man named Sherwin Cody. So the agency ran an ad with the headline, The Man Who Simplified English.
Very prestigious sounding.
Sure. And the ad featured a large, dignified portrait of Sherwin Cody and paragraphs of copy detailing his impressive credentials, his background, his brilliant methodology.
So it was textbook manufacturer's copy. Look at this great guy.
The literal equivalent of the guy talking about his new car at the party.
And let me guess, the data showed it failed.
It was a complete dud. It lost money. So Caples and his team stepped in, and they applied what they called the you principle.
The you principle.
They stripped away all the ego, all the we and I, and focused entirely on the reader's self-interest. They wrote a new headline that went on to become one of the most famous in advertising history.
I know this one.
It ran undefeated, without a single word changed, for 25 years.
Which is just unheard of.
Unheard of. The headline was simply, "Do you make these mistakes in English?"
Man, that is so potent. Do you make these mistakes in English? Let's really dissect why those 7 words work so perfectly on the human brain.
It's surgical. Let's look at the mechanics, word by word. First, do you. It immediately shifts the psychological spotlight off the creator and onto the reader. It is no longer about Sherwin Cody. It is entirely about the person holding the magazine.
Right. It's pointing right at me.
Second, make these mistakes. This brilliantly leverages a slight sense of social anxiety. Nobody wants to look foolish, uneducated, or incompetent in front of their boss or their peers.
We're terrified of it.
Right. It creates a powerful curiosity gap based on the fear of embarrassment.
But the word these, I feel like that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, isn't it?
The word these is the absolute linchpin of the whole ad. If the headline just said, "Do you make mistakes in English?" it feels like an accusation.
Yeah, it sounds like you were about to be scolded by a strict grammar teacher.
Exactly. Nobody wants that. But these mistakes imply something highly specific. It promises that there are actual examples right here, right now in the text below.
It's implicitly promising free value.
Yes. Yeah. It says, hey, even if you don't buy the course, just read the next paragraph and you will learn something useful. You'll find out what the mistakes are.
Do they have to read on?
And finally, the phrase in English acts as the filter we talked about earlier. It selects the exact right audience, people who are self-conscious about their communication skills.
It's an absolute masterclass in behavioral psychology. It selects the audience. It points the spotlight directly at their self-interest. It triggers just a manageable amount of social fear, so they care. And it promises a tangible reward, all in 7 words.
It's flawless.
Yeah.
And we see this exact same you principle applied in another famous test Caples mentions, involving Dale Carnegie's legendary book.
Oh, yeah, the self-help classic.
Exactly. So the publishers tested 2 different titles for the book before it was released. The first title they tested was incredibly clever, very witty. It was How to Ruin Your Marriage in the Quickest Possible Way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it used reverse psychology. It was a joke.
Right, trying to be edgy.
Exactly. Now, the second title was straightforward, blunt, and entirely focused on the reader's self-interest. And that was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
And the clever, witty title lost.
Decisively. It wasn't even close. How to Ruin Your Marriage is a fun joke, but people do not spend their hard-earned money to buy a joke.
No, they don't.
They spend money to solve a personal pain point. How to Win Friends and Influence People offers a massive, highly desirable, completely clear reward.
It tells you exactly what superpower you're going to get.
Exactly. It tells the reader exactly what superpower they will acquire if they read the book.
So for anyone trying to communicate today, the rule is undeniable here. Frame every single piece of communication around what it does for the reader, not how great the sender is.
Period.
Like seriously, if you're listening, go through your emails, your pitch decks, your Slack messages, delete the I's and the we's, and aggressively replace them with you's. It changes the entire tone.
It changes everything.
Okay, let's map where we are in this sequence we're building. We've used a specific curiosity-inducing map to stop them. We've used the you principle to ensure they know the message is about their own self-interest. So they are reading.
They're on the hook.
But getting someone to read a paragraph is miles away from getting them to pull out a credit card. How do we cross that chasm? What makes them actually want the thing?
This is where we get into the deep architecture of persuasion.
Yeah.
This is the really good stuff. Once you have their attention, you have to ignite a fire. You have to make them actually desire the product on a visceral, physical level.
Okay, how?
Caples teaches that the engine of persuasion has 2 distinct cylinders, and they must fire in a very specific biological sequence.
2 cylinders, what are they?
First comes raw emotion, and then comes reason why logic.
Emotion.
then logic.
I am so glad you're bringing this up because this leads to arguably the most famous ad John Caples ever wrote. It is legendary in the industry. The headline is, "They laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play."
It is a masterpiece,
Yeah.
not just of advertising, but of emotional storytelling. I mean, think about what he was actually selling here. It was a mail-order piano instruction course.
Just sheet music and instructions.
Right. He could have just listed the features. He could have written, learn 15 essential chords, comes with 3 detailed instruction books, affordable monthly price.
Which is what 99% of ads do.
Yes. That is purely logical, and to the human brain, pure logic is incredibly boring. It does not spark action. Instead, Caples wrote a miniature high-stakes drama.
The body copy reads like a novel.
It really does.
It tells this incredible story of a guy named Jack at a crowded party. The room is loud, people are joking around, having a good time. Jack walks over to the piano, and his friends start snickering. They whisper to each other.
So relatable.
They think it's a joke. They think he can't play a single note. And the emotional tension he builds in the copy is incredibly high. It taps directly into the limbic system of the brain. He leverages that universal, deep-seated human fear of public humiliation and peer rejection.
We all have that fear.
If you read it, you can physically feel that knot in your stomach for Jack. But then, Jack strikes the first chord of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata.
And everything changes.
The room goes dead silent. The laughter literally dies on their lips. He plays flawlessly, and when he finishes, the room erupts in applause. People are surrounding him, clapping him on the back, congratulating him.
Caples perfectly mapped the emotional journey of the human ego in that story. Notice what he's actually selling here. He is not selling piano lesson.
No, not at all.
He is selling the emotional destination. He is selling social triumph. He is selling the admiration of peers, the overcoming of embarrassment, and the sheer joy of being the center of attention.
He makes the reader desperately want to feel what Jack is feeling.
Exactly. He gets the emotional cylinder firing at maximum capacity.
Right.
But, and this is the critical behavioral insight, raw emotion is not enough to close a sale on its own.
Wait, why not? If I am reading that and my heart is racing and I want that social triumph, why wouldn't I just buy the course right then and there?
Because of cognitive dissonance. The moment the emotional high peaks, the logical part of the human brain, the prefrontal cortex, will immediately step in and hit the brakes.
The buzzkill part of the brain.
Exactly. The brain will say, hold on a minute. I don't have time to practice for hours a day. I don't have a teacher. I don't even know how to read sheet music. This is a scam. This won't work for me.
It starts throwing up all these logical objections.
Right. Emotion makes them desire the destination, but reason why logic gives them the alibi they need to actually justify the purchase.
Gives them permission.
Permission, exactly.
Yeah.
So right after Caples hits you with that massive emotional high of the applause, the copy smoothly, almost invisibly, transitions into the logical vehicle.
How does it do that?
It stops the story and explains exactly how the course works. It uses strict reason why copy to say, here is the new simplified method. There are no tedious scales to memorize. You learn by playing actual songs you know. It only takes 20 minutes a day of practice.
Oh, wow. So it provides the logical cover story. Because when the buyer's spouse asks why they just spent money on a mail-order piano course, they aren't going to say, well, because I want to be the center of attention at our next cocktail party.
No, that would sound ridiculous.
Right. They are going to say, oh, because it's a highly efficient, scientifically proven method of musical education that only takes 20 minutes a day.
We need the logic to rationalize the emotional decision to ourselves and to the people around us.
That is brilliant.
You need both cylinders firing in that exact order. Emotion, then logic. We can actually see what happens when you get the emotion wrong by looking back at that beautifully written, poetic ad we discussed in the very beginning.
Yes. The beautiful failure, the locust ad. Let's dissect why that beautiful piece of writing didn't work.
So the ad was written by Barton. He was another brilliant writer and actually a founder of the BBDO agency. He was writing an ad for the Alexander Hamilton Institute, which sold premium business correspondence courses.
Essentially mailed textbooks for ambitious professionals, right?
Exactly. So Barton wrote an ad with the headline, "The Years the Locust Have Eaten."
It's a biblical quote. Very dramatic.
Very dramatic. And the body copy was a beautifully crafted, deeply mournful essay about wasted opportunity. It painted a picture of older men looking back on their lives with bitter regret, realizing they had drifted aimlessly through their careers while younger, more ambitious men passed them by.
Ooh, heavy.
It was universally praised by advertising professors and literary critics as a work of absolute genius. They thought it was art.
But when it ran in magazines, no one clipped the coupon. What
What?
what was the psychological misstep?
There were a few critical errors. First, look at the headline. The years that the locust hath eaten, it contains zero self-interest.
Right. It offers no tangible reward.
And it doesn't select the right audience unless your target demographic is, biblical scholars.
Yeah.
It is entirely abstract.
The brain has to work too hard to figure it out.
Exactly. But the deeper psychological flaw was the emotional targeting. The entire ad focused on a profound negative emotion: bitter regret, failure, and wasted time.
It's depressing.
Caples notes in his data that while negative emotions like fear can sometimes work as a quick shock, like the grammar mistake, add positive, uplifting emotional destinations almost always pull better in the long run.
People want to buy hope. They do not want to buy depression.
Exactly. The ad made people feel terrible about themselves, so they turned the page. They wanted to escape the feeling.
So Bruce Barton has this massive, very public failure. How did he pivot? What did he write next?
He went back to the drawing board, abandoned the poetry completely, and wrote an ad that became one of the most successful in the Institute's history. It pulled in leads for 7 straight years without wearing out.
Wow. 7 years. What was the new headline?
The new headline was, "A wonderful 2 years trip at full pay, but only men with imagination can take it."
Just hearing that, it feels entirely different. The energy is completely shifted.
Let's analyze the new map he provided. A wonderful 2 years trip at full pay. Massive, tangible reward.
Very specific.
It creates immense curiosity. But the second half of the headline is where the true psychological genius lies. But only men with imagination can take it.
He issues a challenge to the reader.
It is an emotional dare. It implies, hey, here's an incredible opportunity, but you probably aren't smart enough or visionary enough to qualify for it.
Oh, that is so good.
Barton discovered that challenging the reader's ego, forcing them to prove to themselves that they possess imagination, was a wildly powerful emotional trigger.
It's an uplifting, aspirational emotion combined with a challenge.
But then we run into a logical problem. How does he deliver on this promise in the bottle copy?
Right, because the product is literally just a box of dry business textbooks sent through the mail. How on earth does he logically justify calling that a 2 years trip?
This is where he brings in the reason why vehicle. The copy explains that by reading these books, you are embarking on an intellectual journey. You are, quote, spending a day inside the mind of a millionaire financier. You are visiting the office of a brilliant sales manager.
Ah, so he reframes it.
He takes the incredibly boring, dry logic of reading business textbooks and paints it with the emotional brush of an exclusive, imaginative adventure.
It perfectly illustrates the sequence. Sell the emotional destination first, whether that's social triumph at the piano or an exclusive ego-boosting journey to the top of the business world.
Make them feel it.
Right, make them feel it. And then meticulously provide the logical vehicle, the specific course mechanics, the books, the 20 minutes a day to give their prefrontal cortex the alibi it needs to authorize the purchase.
If you only use logic, your message is dry and ignored. If you only use emotion, your message feels like a scam and triggers cognitive dissonance. The emotion opens the wallet, the logic extracts the credit card.
Okay, so we have stopped them with a specific map. We have focused on their self-interest, we have made them emotionally desire the destination, and we have logically justified the vehicle. The rational brain and the emotional brain are both on board.
They're nodding their heads.
Is the cash register ringing? Are we done?
We are not done. And this specific juncture is where so many modern campaigns, emails, and pitches completely fall apart.
Really? Even after all that?
Yes, you've done all the psychological heavy lifting. The prospect wants the product. They have logically justified the price. But human inertia is incredibly, overwhelmingly strong.
A couch is very comfortable.
Exactly. The natural default state of the human being is to look at the offer and say, wow, that sounds absolutely great. I'll definitely do that tomorrow morning.
And as we all know, in the world of persuasion, tomorrow means never. The browser tab gets closed, a text message comes in, the dog barks, and the cognitive momentum is just lost forever.
It vanishes.
So if I just tell someone, buy now, why do they ignore it? What is the psychological barrier preventing that final click?
The barrier is a combination of risk aversion, cognitive load, and what behavioral economists call hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting, what is that?
It's the tendency for people to increasingly choose a smaller, immediate reward, like the comfort of just doing nothing, over a larger, later reward.
It's just easier to stay put.
Exactly. Caples developed a rigorous final checklist to dismantle these exact psychological barriers.
Yeah.
To compel immediate action, you have to prove it's an undeniable bargain. Establish unshakable confidence to reverse the risk, remove all cognitive friction from the action itself, and provide a tangible penalty for waiting.
Okay, let's break those down. Let's start with proving it's a bargain, because just yelling, it's a great deal, obviously doesn't work.
Yeah.
Caples utilized a concept called step-down pricing, right? Which relies heavily on the psychology of relativity and price anchoring.
Yes. He had a campaign for a book on personal magnetism that cost $3. But he didn't start the ad by saying, buy this book for $3.
Because the human brain does not understand absolute value. $3 out of context means nothing.
The brain only understands value relatively. So instead of stating the price up front, the copy begins by telling a story. It talks about how the author of this method used to teach these secrets privately to wealthy financiers and powerful politicians in Washington, D.C. And these men gladly paid him $500 for his personal instruction.
So boom, the mental anchor is immediately set at $500. The brain establishes that as the baseline value of the information.
Precisely. Then the copy continues.
Mm.
The author realized he couldn't teach everyone personally, so he meticulously compiled his entire $500 course into a single book. And because it's mass-produced, you won't pay the $500 the politicians paid.
You won't pay $100.
You wouldn't even pay $50. You can have the exact same system for only $3.
It is the exact psychological mechanism behind every department store sale ever created. MSRP $100, our price $19.99, but Caples weaves it into a logical narrative so it doesn't feel cheap.
It builds massive perceived value.
Yeah.
But even with a great price, you still have the barrier of risk. Back in the 1920s, mail order was rife with scams. People were terrified they would mail $3 and receive an empty box or a terrible product.
Today, the fear is identical. People are terrified of putting their credit card into some unknown Shopify store and getting ripped off.
The amygdala, the fear center of the brain, is firing. Caples countered this with aggressive risk reversal. He popularized the free 5-day examination.
The free trial.
Exactly. He used phrases like, send no money now, and if you aren't absolutely thrilled, send it back, and you will miss nothing. You have to completely remove the financial and emotional risk from the buyer's shoulders and place it squarely on your own.
You must make it feel safer to buy than to not buy.
Exactly. And then we get to the actual mechanics of the action.
Right. You mentioned earlier how specific the action commands need to be. You cannot just say, get in touch or reach out. What is the psychology behind scripting the action?
It comes down to minimizing cognitive load. Caples ran tests for a personal loan company. When the ad ended with a standard call to action like call us today, it generated a mediocre response.
Because calling a loan company is scary.
Very intimidating. But then he changed the copy to read, telephone Riverside 9920000 and ask for Miss Miller. Say, tell me what I have to do to get a loan.
Wow.
When he ran that version, the response rate skyrocketed.
Why did adding ask for Miss Miller make such a massive difference?
Think about the mental state of someone applying for a personal loan. They are stressed. They are likely embarrassed about their financial situation. The executive function of their brain is overwhelmed.
Yeah, the thought of calling a faceless corporate bureaucracy and explaining their money problems to a random receptionist creates immense social friction.
By writing, ask for Miss Miller, Caples implies a warm personal connection waiting on the other end. Someone nice. And by giving them the exact script, say, tell me what I have to do, he completely removed the cognitive load of having to figure out what to say when they pick up.
He made the action mentally effortless.
It removes the anxiety of the unknown.
But what about the urgency factor? That final push. We see countdown timers and limited supply warnings everywhere today. Setting aside whether those specific tactics are truthful or not, what is the underlying psychology that makes urgency so necessary? Why must we force them to act today?
It goes back to that hyperbolic discounting and the comfort of inertia. Taking an action, any action, requires energy. The brain wants to conserve energy. Therefore, if there is no penalty for waiting, the prospect's brain will always choose to wait.
Always.
To overcome this, you have to provide a logical, tangible reason why procrastinating will physically or financially hurt them.
Like the fabric is discontinued, we only have 50 units left.
Or, our shipping rates increase next month. Order today to lock in the current price. Or, tying it to a calendar event. Order by Tuesday to ensure delivery before Mother's Day.
You have to introduce a negative consequence to inaction.
Yes. That is how you defeat human inertia.
Man, we have covered an immense amount of ground here. We've gone from the raw honesty of mail-order testing to the curiosity plus reward formula to the U principle to the dual cylinders of emotion and reason why, all the way down to the psychology of price anchoring and cognitive friction.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. If we step back and look at the grand architecture of John Caples' worldview, how do all these individual concepts fit together? What is the synthesis here?
The synthesis is that Caples did not just write a book of clever marketing tricks.
Right.
He mapped out a sequential, deeply empathetic psychological funnel. His entire philosophy is built on a clear-eyed, almost clinical acceptance of human nature.
He deals with reality.
Exactly. He doesn't judge people for how they are. He designs communication for how they actually operate. He recognizes that humans are constantly distracted, so he uses a specific curiosity-driven headline as a shock mechanism to break that distraction.
And he recognizes we are fundamentally self-interested.
So he rigorously applies the U principle to assure the reader the message is about their own ego. He recognizes we are driven by feelings, so he uses storytelling to create raw desire.
But he knows we are skeptical.
So he provides the reason why logic to give our rational brain an alibi. And finally, he knows we are inherently lazy, so he removes all risk and cognitive friction at the point of action.
It is a complete, cohesive, biological system for moving a human mind from absolute apathy to committed action.
That's exactly what it is.
It truly is an architecture of persuasion. So as we look at this complete system, who is this deep dive really for? Obviously, if you work in an ad agency or you're a professional copywriter or a performance marketer, this book is essentially the Old Testament. It's mandatory reading. But what about everyone else?
That is the most beautiful part of this text. While it is written using the vocabulary of 1920s advertising, it is fundamentally a manual on human psychology. It is for anyone who ever needs to persuade another human being to change their mind or take an action.
Which is all of us.
All of us. If you are a middle manager writing an email, trying to get a stubborn cross-functional team on board with a new workflow, you need to understand how to write a subject line that breaks their distraction, and you need to apply the U principle so they see how the new workflow benefits them.
If you are an entrepreneur pitching a startup to a skeptical investor, you need to master the sequence of selling the emotional vision first and then backing it up with the reason why financial logic.
If you are writing a dating profile, you are dealing with headlines and self-interest.
Exactly.
But honestly, even if you never sell a single thing in your life, this book is essential psychological self-defense. If you simply want to understand the mechanics of how your attention is being harvested, monetized, and directed every single day on the internet, this book gives you the exact blueprint.
It allows you to see the matrix of persuasion that surrounds us all.
To see the matrix.
I love that. That is a powerful concept. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering question that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Let's hear it.
We are living in a moment where we are rapidly outsourcing our communication. We rely on artificial intelligence to draft our emails, to write our ad copy, to generate our landing pages.
Oh yeah, constantly.
We rely on opaque algorithms to find our audiences for us. In doing so, in handing the keys over to machines, are we risking losing this raw, fundamental, dirty hands understanding of human psychology?
That's a scary thought.
As the internet gets flooded with millions of pieces of AI-generated content that are perfectly average, mathematically optimized, but emotionally hollow, will the people who actually cut through that endless digital noise be the ones who remember Caples' analog lessons?
Wow.
Will the true advantage in the future belong to the people who still understand how to play the complex chords of human emotion and write a messy, beautiful, deeply human piano ad?
It is a profound question. I believe the answer is a resounding yes.
Me too.
The digital tools will continue to evolve, but the human operating system remains exactly the same. The principles of persuasion are permanent.
Absolutely permanent.
We've explored some incredible, timeless insights today, but we are really just scratching the surface of what this text has to offer. Caples goes into meticulous detail on how to write a compelling first paragraph, the exact psychology of designing a coupon, and how to properly deploy testimonials.
There is so much more.
So much more. If you felt this deep dive could genuinely help you in your career, your communication, or just your understanding of human behavior, there is a complete audio available.
Right.
It's several hours long, covering every single chapter of the book in depth, with detailed explanations, dozens of historical case studies, and highly actionable takeaways for each one.
It's incredible.
If you want to go deeper and truly master this architecture of persuasion, check out the link in the description to get the full experience. It's a natural next step if you're ready to master these timeless principles.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, the next time you find yourself stuck at that cocktail party with someone who only knows how to talk about themselves,
Run away.
run away. Or, the next time you stare at a blank email draft trying to figure out how to get someone to reply, come back to the fundamentals. Find the right audience and make them a believable promise. We'll see you next time.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.